How are you doing this afternoon?
You care?
Actually, I do. I listen a lot, and I care.
I listen to you every day, and you make me laugh.
Good.
So I have a funny story to tell you.
That was hilarious. Jeff, you make my afternoons, man. You really do.
Jeff Ward, brought to you by Austin's Eye Surgeons, Dr. Mitchell Wong and Dr. Shannon Wong at austineye.com.
Hey, welcome to our little show. If you don't mind, and anybody can try again, in particular Republicans can try this, try that pitch of smaller government, of less government. Could you try that one again? Because we have to revisit the largest steroid testing program in the United States. So if you could, just run that by us again that you're for less government. Just want to see that one happen. So when people talk about politics and people talk about finance and you act as if you're upset about some things, really? Where does that smaller government thing start and end? Seems pretty narrow. Apparently you don't mean it across the board. So Statesman.com has an article by Rick Cantu today about your steroid testing program. Now, there's an easy way to argue in favor of this. See, everyone, fewer people are doing steroids. Take that. Don't complain, taxpayers. Fewer people are doing steroids. See? How do you prove it wrong? So the Statesman.com article goes something like this. When Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst, I know, less government, sure, championed the testing program for the state's 1,300 public high schools in 2007, his intentions were pure. Hey, that's all that matters, right? You mean well. You just want to try hard. That's all that matters. With Dewhurst leading the charge, it says, I know you're for less government. Sure you are. The largest steroid testing program in the country was allocated $6 million to randomly select between 20 and 25,000 of the state's estimated 740,000 student athletes. If we fast forward to the 2009-2010 academic year, because I really can argue since day one how stupid this was. You nanny staters find a way to bankrupt everybody. But Jeff, do you want the kids to have shrinking testicles and back acne? No. It's just not worth the money. But of course, as we're learning, and even though many of you like to pick apart what it is that's smaller government or not, we're learning none of that stuff matters. Because I really think from day one, this was about the suburbs, afraid that the kid that was going to go opposite your kid on the offensive line might be on roids. And it was myopic, and it's been stupid since day one. Just take a look at 2009-2010, 6,441 tests for steroids, all right? Of those, 798 soccer players, 617 basketball players, 374 tennis players, 149 cross-country runners. Yes, if you want to see puffiness, go to a cross-country meet. 149 golfers. Now, what taxpayer, what parent in this state is not disturbed by steroid use in high school golf? It's killing us. Have you seen the driving distances? 293 volleyball players. Yeah, nice job, us. Exactly what was the goal again? And somehow, I mean, is proof of all this, just so I can argue with you that you're really not about smaller government. Does any of this stick to anybody in office? Is anybody held accountable for this? Is anybody going to get voted out? If you wanted to do the math, just in case you next time are complaining about how money is spent or not spent or where it should go, it's about $286,000 per positive test. $286,000 per positive test. What could be done with that would be a very good question. 21 positive tests out of more than 50,000 since February of 2008. Last spring, out of 3,308 tests, 0. Count them up. Zip. No positive tests. And what do you have to show for this now? What is it we have going on now? All right, the phone numbers, you'll need them. 836-0590, toll-free 877-590-KLBJ. Can you listen online? More than likely, yes. Go to 590KLBJ.com. Click on that icon and put your head down. You can do that chat box thing as well. Go to 590KLBJ.com. Click on the OLS chat box, whatever that is. You will see some preppy pictures, and you are in. If you would like to download the show, it's possible. Go to 590KLBJ.com. Click on the podcast there, and more than likely it is free. You can also download the show via iTunes, and I'm told on your iPhone as well, and who knows, somewhere, somehow, there could be a phone app out there. You know what was happening today, and yes, we are going to fall victim to the jokes and the stereotypes and the stoner jokes. I didn't even know this group existed. I don't know why you think it's a good idea to prosecute people for marijuana. I'm not quite sure why you really care. Why do you care? Unless you're in law enforcement or one of the cottage industries that profits from this, why do you, the average citizen, really care? The last thing I think we expected was women's marijuana movement to show up in Austin.
As a mother of two, I know this, that marijuana prohibition will cause far greater harm to my family and to the future of my children than any consumption of marijuana ever could.
Well, can't say we disagree, Mom, but apparently the majority of the public does. It's an odd argument to make, isn't it?
I just think that if students were given the option of using marijuana instead of alcohol, that hopefully a lot of the violence on campuses would go down.
Sure. Absolutely.
Damn, Ward, you're really playing with fire today, brother. You haven't said anything really disparaging yet, but you're really pushing the envelope.
You're listening to Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
Alcohol, binge drinking, things like that on our campuses are killing kids every single day. I feel like if there was an alternative, a legal alternative for our kids on campuses, they would choose it.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
You probably never heard for Women for Marijuana, but there they were today. I know you're going to throw around the stereotype jokes. I don't know what they look like. It didn't sound too high. Who really cares, right? I mean, it's just hard. It's amazing that anyone could get worked up about it. I'm not sure people do get worked up about this. Unless you're in the cottage industry that profits from prosecuting people for marijuana, does the average citizen really care?
Marijuana doesn't kill people. Marijuana doesn't make people violent.
The funny thing is, I'm not quite sure how. Look, I'll be the 0.01% apparently in all these things, but I can't find myself getting worked up enough to run around and campaign for it. Right? It's such a non-starter with some of us. Maybe you're different, but that isn't your attitude. Really? Oh, you're smoking weed? Okay. It's time to go to work now. Goodbye.
And as a mom, I look at such key emerging science, which our government has neglected over the last decade. It shows that alcohol has a far more detrimental effect on juvenile brain development than marijuana ever will.
Okay. Sure, Mom. How'd you end up here, Mom? Why are you? I'm happy for you, I guess. Knock yourself out if it's something you feel passionate about. But exactly how do you end up here? That's the women's marijuana movement. Okay. You're not going to win because that's how the public likes it. More jails, more cops, more money, more cars, more guns, more money. So you keep plugging away. Good luck to you. All right, 836-0590, toll-free 877-590-KLBJ. Your steroid testing program is called out in today's American Statesman. 6,000 in the spring, there were no positive tests. You've produced a whopping 21 positive tests out of more than 50,000 tested. If you want to go ahead and add up the money, go ahead. and then sit back and think, now, what do we have to show for this? Your argument is going to be, well, we scared 49,900 and some change out of doing steroids. And that's an easy argument to make, and there's no argument against that, is there? See? Well, would you rather, if you didn't do this, is it possible that you would have had, I don't know, how many athletes are there? 373,000 on steroids? But you tested them, and you drove them away from the steroids. See? So it's worth every penny, isn't it? I don't know how to argue against that, except I know it's not worth any. But it's hard to fight back on that one, because that's exactly what somebody can do. You know, David Dewhurst and the other nanny staters, this whole pretend thing in this state about smaller government is bogus. It's bogus. It's not true. Find someone who really practices that. So this one's not going to be a hard pitch. Hey, listen, people, get off our back. Yeah, there's 21 positive tests. And yeah, you can say it costs you $286,000 per positive test. But think of the thousands that we've scared away from steroids. Now, that feels better, doesn't it? All right, phone number is 836-0590, toll-free 877-590-KLBJ. The top salary, it's pretty funny. I don't know why Thomas had this. I don't know. Where did this come from? The highest paid state and local employees. They're easy answers, but you'll appreciate it. There's a high concentration in one place, in one area. John, you're on KLBJ.
Yeah, I was in agreement with the lady about marijuana. I'm an elderly gentleman, and I've smoked marijuana for probably 50 years. I drank booze for 25. There's absolutely no comparison between being an alcoholic and a person that smokes marijuana, because number one is there's been a lot of deaths from liquor. Friends that I've had have OD'd from liquor, even on 6th Street. I was involved in the Painter case when unfortunately, my son's friend passed away due to an overdose on liquor. Yeah. But there's never been a death in the history of the world on marijuana. And it's great for the machine. It's great for the lawyers, the court, get the money, make the money, the whole 9 yards. But as far as being something that's more anti-anxiety related, as opposed to booze, which will send you over the top where you'll do anything, I don't think there's any comparison between the two.
Now why, like what these ladies were saying today, why do we care? What's the issue? What's the blockade here to legalize? And by the way, I don't smoke, and I'm not saying I advocate smoking. I just don't advocate spending the money to worry about you smoking weed. It's not worth the time.
Well, I don't think we need to spend the money, thousands and thousands of dollars with doctors, bail bondsmen, court officials who could be a lot more valuable in the sector of heinous crimes as opposed to smoking a joint or, capturing the person who's been out and gotten 20 DWIs and hadn't done any time.
Well, I don't know about 20 DWIs, but...
Well, I've got a great friend who's a lawyer that got 26 of them, and he's 26? Still out walking, only because he's married, only because he's wealthy.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to happen, though, is it?
Well, it's not going to happen in Texas because, the old thing. It's like counties that drink. They vote down drinking, right?
Yeah.
Everybody in the county votes it down. I'm from a small county in the Panhandle. I know everyone gets drunk, but everyone votes it down.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was funny that it's the women's marijuana movement. That's funny. I mean, I hate to stereotype them, and maybe they don't fit the stereotype at all, but it's still funny to say the women's marijuana movement was in town. I wonder what happens if the women's marijuana movement meets the high school steroid testing movement. Neil, you're on KLBJ.
Yeah, as far as the steroid testing and all that goes, okay, so here's the deal. Do I agree that kids should use steroids? No. However, all these kids, all the athletes, all the players, they know when these steroid tests are coming.
Okay, yeah.
If the coaches know about it, they're going to tell them,
well,
right?
They're supposed to be random tests.
Right.
Now, I don't know how far in advance they do or don't know.
Well, okay, so Ricky Williams, for example.
Yes.
Pro athletes know when these tests are coming. Yes, they are supposed to be random, but, I mean, how many guys do you think that are in the NFL or the NBA that smoke weed and never test positive for it?
Right, a lot. Quite a few are busted. I mean, big-time player for the Texans, a linebacker, is just now coming back this weekend because he missed the first 4 weeks. But that's, I mean, I think there's a big difference there, Neil, though. That's their business. That's if the players' union wants to agree to that, they want to pick up the tab themselves. That business wants to steroid test. That's their business.
Right.
The fact that some moron somewhere who, these Republicans, this is getting ridiculous, this whole less government thing, when it's exactly the opposite of that, ran around and said this is a great idea for the taxpayers to pick up the tab. Do you really care if your neighbor's kid is doing roids? Do you want to pay for it?
That's the same thing as in, do I care about what other players do in their spare time? Right. No, I don't. But I don't want to spend $286,000 when these kids know when these tests are going to be.
Yeah. See, there's the deal with this is I said the first day they pitched it, and I got all the hate mail about, you're advocating this. I'm not advocating anything. I'm a militant health freak. I don't advocate any of this stuff. I'm just going to tell you, if people get off their collective butts, it's not hard to figure it out. I told you the first day they pitched this, and I've been around plenty of steroid users, plenty. If there is one thing, now, I don't know about the kids getting their mom Xanax and stuff. The symptoms may not be so obvious, but I can promise you this much. You get on a cycle of steroids, it is plainly obvious.
It is absolutely time to stop destroying families, to stop putting people in federal penitentiaries. It is time to heal families, not destroy families.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
That's your favorite. You know them, you love them. Women's marijuana movement. They don't sound too high. I know, the bongos, all that stuff. They sound perfectly reasonable.
We're here to change the face. We're here to say enough is enough.
All right, phone number is 836-0590, toll free 877-590-KLBJ. The top salaries in the state of Texas for state employees. There seems to be a concentration. And I know what people are going to say even before you start arguing this. Let's see. In order, there seems to be a connection here. The highest paid state employee is Mac Brown at the University of Texas, $5.1 million. Second highest paid, Rick Barnes, $2.15 million. Third highest paid, Michael Sherman, Texas A&M University. Yeah, how much longer though? $1.7 million. Let's see. Oh, the fourth highest paid is Thomas Tuberville. Okay. 1.5 million. Next, Gail Gestenkors, University of Texas. If you just look at the top 10, I believe 8 of the top 10 highest paid employees are coaches, and I think 7 of them are coaches at the University of Texas. Your highest paid state employee who is not coaching is Scott Ransom, the University of North Texas Health Science Center. He makes about $904,000. The head of the University of Texas system makes $750,000. The highest paid city employees The highest salary is $242,008. You know him, you love him. He is that public relations animal, Mark Ott, makes $242,000. Art Acevedo, according to this, makes $181,400. Rhoda Kerr, the fire chief, makes $160,000. And then I counted up 17 police commanders, all of whom make $130,422. There you go. It pays to coach. Mark, you're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Do you care, Mark?
I do care, because when you're having a good day, you're having a good show.
All right.
Hey, just about the women's marijuana movement, I wasn't able to hear their press conference or their rally, whatever today, but the thing that I thought I would note that you would probably appreciate, the whole war on drugs can be summed up like this. The price of marijuana today is essentially the same price it was 30 years ago. And if after 30 years of war, you haven't altered the supply and demand balance as reflected through price, then it tells you all you need to know about that effort, doesn't it?
Yep. It's a mess. It's a joke. I don't even know how to penetrate. How do you penetrate to the average person who they say they care about money, but this argument, even though it's a complete waste of money, doesn't penetrate. Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with the politicians being quite successful at confusing legality and morality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, it is a health issue, and we've treated it as a criminal issue, and we're all the poorer because of it.
You could, I don't know. I suspect you can make a very easy health arguments that you'd be better off outlawing cheeseburgers than you would marijuana.
Oh, if you had to pick anything.
Yeah, you could. I don't know how far down the list marijuana would be, but I'm guessing it's pretty far down the list in terms of health issues.
It'd be way below alcohol, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I don't want to spend any money to bust anybody for smoking weed, but that cottage industry sure likes it.
Yeah, government has developed long claws around that.
You better believe they're not going to let go, because that would mean, as we've learned, someone would have to lose their job. That's not going to happen. We don't do it that way.
If a person is arrested or ticketed for marijuana, they can lose their children to social services. They can, lose all of their financial aid.
I don't know. I don't know why the ladies are worked up, but good luck to them. They're probably in a state where it's not going to happen. Not going to happen at all. You want to talk about Hooters? And, oh, man, look, you're not going to believe me when I tell you I don't think I've ever been to a Hooters. I'm pretty naive about a lot of things, and I don't go out much. But that doesn't matter. Here you go, the Wall Street Journal. By the way, the market today, the Dow up. At one point today, I think it was up over 200 points. Well over 200 points. Ended up 193. It's got to be the highest gain since, I think, May. Boeing went up 4% today. Now, there's a lot of details on why this happened today. Part of it is the Japanese and interest rates and things like that. But at the same time, I think retail stocks did pretty well. Apparently, Apple and Google shot up also. What a shock. Huh. Couldn't see that one coming. Guess that star is fading on Google pretty quickly, huh? So, the Wall Street Journal reports Hooters remains potentially on the hook for alleged weight discrimination. A judge ruled today that two former waitresses who filed a weight discrimination case against the restaurant chain could proceed with their cases. The company has said it does not impose weight requirements on employees. Question, why not? Why shouldn't you? Oh, I see. It's about the food and about the drinks. Yes. Okay. Here you go. Cassandra Smith, one of the plaintiffs, alleges in her complaint that she began working at Hooters in 2008. At the time, she weighed 145 pounds. In a performance evaluation, she claims in her complaint a restaurant manager advised her, quote, to join a gym in order to lose weight and improve her look so she would fit better into the uniform, end quote. The uniform sizes are extra, extra small, or small. So, well, let's see. It seems like if you're sitting on the jury here, that we've got a couple issues. What is the unique selling proposition of Hooters? Why do you, and I'm serious, I've never been there. I don't care if you go. I'm just saying maybe there are a lot of fat women there. I don't know. But what is the unique selling proposition of Hooters? What's it about? Why do the customers go? Do they go because of the food? If it's because of the food only, then I guess she has a right to say, I'm not too fat. It's about the food. Is it about the food? It is. Jeff, you're on KLBJ. Hey, Jeff. Great. John, you're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff, this is John. I was calling about the new
Hello,
Texas
John. This is Jeff.
I was calling about the Texas Lyceum poll that says 30% of Texans would support legalized marijuana and taxing it as a means to close our budget gap.
Yeah, it's the second time I've heard about that today. Is that for real?
The poll came out. They released the executive summary today. It was in the field I think for 2 weeks. It's got some interesting stuff in there.
Well, 30% is not going to do it, though.
Well, yeah, but over 60%, I think, I'm trying to remember, I'm driving down the road, supported casino-style gambling as well.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Okay. And a majority of Texans polled supported some form of same-sex recognition, same-sex partner marriage, whatever you want to call it. 40% were adamantly opposed to it.
What does the same-sex marriage have to do with a budget gap?
Well, the poll it has a lot of components to it, taking the pulse of Texans on a lot of things.
But that was my argument about gambling. If you couldn't sell casino gambling now in the upside-down budget that we have, you're never going to be able to sell it.
Yeah. I know a lot more than you do, Jeff. These guys will make judgments without knowing the facts. He hung up on.
No, I didn't.
You're listening to Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ. Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
Phone number is 836-0590, toll free 877-590-KLBJ. I don't know what Hooters' legal yearly bill would be, but it's pretty hefty, I'm guessing. Remember, there was another lady that sued Hooters because the manager said something to her about her breastfeeding, that she wasn't breastfeeding completely out in the open, but the manager asked her if she could kind of stand out of the view of the guys. I'm assuming it's all guys. Now we have the Wall Street Journal reporting that a woman who weighs 145 pounds has sued them because in her performance evaluation, the manager told her to get a gym membership. She claims she was put on a 30-day weight probation, and she resigned. Well, too bad. Too bad. Maybe she's a really good waitress, and There would be a nice 5-star restaurant that needs a 185-pound, really talented waitress. Now, I could be wrong. I've maybe missed something here, but I'm guessing the reason why you go to Hooters is to slam a pitcher of beer and stare at babes in orange shorts. And it's probably not good for business if you don't like staring at the babes in orange shorts. Just a guess. The shorts, by the way, the uniform, she says, come in 3 sizes. She says this. I don't know what's true. Extra small, she says. Extra small or small. That's what she says. I don't know what the other case, I assume the other case is probably the exact same thing. Because 2 of them were filed. She claims she began working at Hooters in 2008. At that time, now I guess the catch is going to be she says she weighed 145. So did she put on weight or did she lose weight throughout the process? If they hired her at 145 and during her performance evaluation she weighed 143, should it matter? Should the case go forward? You know they'll pay. You know it. I mean, look, it would be hard to find a jury, particularly, I guess, of women, who would be mad at Hooters. So they have no choice but to write the checks. Man, I can't even believe they let it go this far. It just can't be worth it. They will lose. It's stupid if they lose. Your job, correct me if I'm wrong, people, your job is to bop around in front of sportscasters in orange tight shorts. I'm guessing they make more money and you make more money if you're hot. If you don't like that, I certainly respect it. You probably should go to another restaurant. I don't know. Maybe the fact that they have calendars could give it away. Some are calling this a benchmark case that will establish the proposition that physical appearance should not be a component of an employee keeping his or her job. Bull. That's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. The job is about your appearance, isn't it? There are plenty of jobs that are about your appearance. All right. Jason, you're on KLBJ.
Yeah, Jeff, I didn't know. Tom's told me you haven't seen the episode of Undercover Bosses where they had the Hooters CEO on there.
No.
Oh, the funniest thing. The guy is single dad, and, at one point in the show, a manager from up in, North Texas somewhere had his girls to get off early. They had a competition, and they had to eat these beans off of a plate with their hands behind their back. And the CEO was just mortified, And he made a comment along the lines of, I want Hooters to be the kind of place that my daughters, when they get old enough, they could work here and not be ashamed and be,
Not be ashamed to work there?
Yeah. Where they wouldn't be ostracized or people wouldn't look down on them or look at them as objects. And I'm like, wait a minute, is this the CEO of Hooters?
Right. Well, then someone should ask him, that's certainly a noble idea. Why don't you have the girls wear gray sweatpants from now on then, and let's see what happens to business.
Yeah, I was watching the show, and I'm like, I expected when they said the CEO of Hooters is going to be some guy on a Harley Davidson with tattoos and, and bleeping him out every 10 seconds or something. Yeah. And wait a minute, isn't this kind of a double standard?
Well, I don't mind that the guy's a nice guy and he wants to raise his kids the way he wants, and I'm not saying it's that. I know you don't believe. I've never been to a Hooters. Of course, I got that look from Thomas. I've not been to Hooters. I have nothing against it. It's not some moral stance. I just don't care. But listen, I get what it's about. I mean, it's about guys slamming beers, right? So it may be a great job. But what's stupid is trying to ignore the fact that it's about how you look. Well, at what point does the taxpayer in Texas think they got their money's worth with steroid testing? I think I may have asked the $6 million question for you testing 50,000 athletes so far, and that is, forget the $286,000 per positive test. Maybe the better way to put it is, what amounts are you willing to part with to scare people away from doing steroids? Let's take the positive approach here, that it really does scare some people away from doing steroids. What would you be willing to pay, suburban taxpayers? Because this is all about you. This one's yours. Created for you, about you, owned by you. 50,000 students have been tested so far. 21 have had positive results. Last spring, 3,400 were tested, 0 positive results. This year, 6,441 tests for steroids, 2 positive results. Among those tested, 798 soccer players, 617 basketball players, 374 tennis players, 149 Have you noticed the cross-country runners nowadays? They have that Cro-Magnon forehead, acne all over the back. I mean, just look at the 5A state champions. The top 3 spots, each one of the cross-country runners weighed more than 220 pounds. 149 golfers. That's a huge problem. 293 volleyball players. They're done randomly. So obviously you can get some football players in there. And that's what it was about, I guess. But think about it. What would you part with if I could give you a number of local high school kids you could scare away from steroids? I don't really believe it's happening or has happened. But that's the positive. I guess that's the upside to this entire thing, right? I don't know what this is about, but it's terrifying. 1 billion YouTube views. Wow. Okay. Apparently these are major milestones in the world of YouTube. 1 billion YouTube views for Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga. Is that a billion separately? A billion for him, a billion for her? I guess that's so. Wow. The word is that Justin Bieber will surpass the 1 billion milestone mark around November 1st. His September video was viewed 3.7 million times per day. Per day. 4 million a day. Should we put that on our website, Thomas? Is that the ticket, or our listeners just like to look at skanks? Is he the kid with the 80s hair? I give my kids a lecture all the time. No, don't listen to it. Let's crank up some real rock. Stunt your growth. 4 million a day, a billion? I don't know what an ad on the Justin Bieber page costs, but it's not enough. Forget the network business. That's the way to go. I mean, you're trying to sell, what is it? God, what would it be for kids? Cell phones or something? I mean, why? That's where I'd go. You got 1 billion viewers. Lady Gaga, I don't know who you are. Well, I know who the Lady Gaga is, but I don't know who would view this. I'm worried about you. She has 1 billion. Oh. What a Madonna copycat.
Every every day you are doing good, I feel better. So I'll just get that up front. Yes, I do care.
Thanks.
You're listening to Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
Phone number is 836-0590. Toll free 877-590-KLBJ. Had a couple of these calls already. Don't know what to do with them or about them. They weren't Thong Man sightings. They were far from it. Thomas keeps telling me people are calling with Steven Tyler sightings at Lakeline Mall. How do you know? Does he have a microphone with a scarf around it? Okay. Why are you calling with that, by the way? I mean, what are we supposed to do? I don't know why Steven Tyler would be at Lakeline Mall. I don't know. Getting video games or something. I have to admit, if people you see out in public, that would be a dead giveaway. There aren't that many people that look that bad, that are that skinny. So, that's great. I just want to tell you, you don't have to keep calling this show for any reason to... I don't know what we're supposed to do with that. He's an American Idol guy now, right? Making $12 million as an American Idol judge. I think he'd probably be pretty good at it. I'm sure I've written about that on my American Idol blog. By the way, when does the show air again? Soon, I'm told. We'll get right on it. Is Justin Guarini going to finally win this year? Hooters is being sued again. This time because a woman who had worked there since 2008. This was in today's Wall Street Journal. She claims that during her performance evaluation. Wonder what those are like at Hooters. That her manager told her to join a gym so she could lose weight and improve her looks so that she would fit better into her uniform. She alleges that Hooters put her on a 30-day weight probation. She resigned. She claims that the uniforms come in 3 sizes. She says extra, extra small, or small. Hooters says it does not impose weight requirements on employees. Why not? Or maybe a weight requirement isn't the right way to go, but it should be up to the manager if you look good enough that make you good enough for business. I assume, don't know exactly, and I'm not kidding, I've never been to Hooters, but I assume the better you look, the more money you make. Is that wrong? And I'm guessing it's not about how you deliver the wings. It might just be how you look when you deliver them. So I guess somebody could say, well, what difference does it make? If she gets fat, that's her problem. No, that might be their problem. That's their business model, isn't it? If anybody has a right to have some kind of look or weight requirement, it's got to be Hooters. That's what they do. This is stupid. This is anybody remember I think the ultimate landmark fight over how an employee looks was the guy who applied to be Santa Claus, I think at Barton Creek Mall, and he's black. So how does it play out? 30-day weight probation. She quit. Okay. That's fine. Maybe another restaurant's a better fit. Don't blame you. If you don't want to have to worry about your weight and your shorts, guess you don't want to work there. That makes sense. By the way, height and weight discrimination was added in 1976. A judge has ruled that the case, and there's another one just like it, can proceed. Hooters needs to write a check because you end up losing. Just write a check. And if you end up losing, then you have to give in on this whole issue, right? You couldn't turn any woman away. You couldn't have any requirements. That would ruin the business, wouldn't it? Or the guy's going to say, no, we go there for the service, we go there for the great iced tea. The rest of it doesn't matter. We don't care if they weigh 260. The reason why we go is the chips. Uh-huh. Sure, guys. All right, it is Dean. You're on KLBJ.
Hey, you're a little bit off on the thing about Hooters. My wife worked her way through nursing school there, and some of the girls that are a little bit thick, got a couple extra pounds on them. It isn't so much what size shorts they wear; they've just got to be at least 2 or 3 sizes smaller than what they should.
Right. So is the catch here that? Let me figure out how to word this legally. They shouldn't have a weight. I mean, weight doesn't matter. It's really how the boss thinks you look, right?
Well, I don't know about the boss there. She was an assistant manager. It was where I was in. I'm an emergency room physician. I work up in Dallas. I work from Friday at 3 till Sunday at 3.
Okay.
We'd crawl out of there afterwards. If you felt like you could go home, you would. If you didn't, you went to Hooters, got a little bit to eat, stayed at the hotel, went home, home the next day. She was a salesman. She was, one of those people that could market stuff. She made fantastic money. She put herself through nursing school. That's the whole thing. Yes, I love the wings. I love the 3 Mile Island wings. Yes, I like to look at the women. I'll admit that. But, it's marketing. It's like anything else. It's sales. And, if you do that well, unless you're like 400 pounds, you're going to do, you're going to do okay there. If you don't have the personality, you aren't going to work.
Let me ask you this. If Hooters were to lose this, and I got to believe they've got to write her a check and just get on with it, but if they were to lose this, and would you or anybody else go there? Let's say half the women there were fat and looked terrible in those shorts. Would it affect their business dramatically?
It might. It depends on how they do it. Let me give you an example. If you haven't been to a Hooters,
I have not.
There's also a place called Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
If I get off my shift, I'll work 48 hours straight. If I get 4 or 5 hours sleep, I can make it home. If I don't, I stay in Dallas. There's a place called Twin Peaks. Now, the difference between those, and it's a whole image thing. They both have decent food. The Twin Peaks girls have little shorts, and they have little, they're like, lumberjack. They got little plaid shirts, and they tie them up. The difference is the girls at Hooters, and this is what my wife says, the girls at Hooters are the ones that failed communications at that college down in San Marcos. The girls that are at Twin Peaks are the ones that are getting, the BS or the MBA at UT, and they go on to do something. It's just a real, it's a kind of culture thing, and I kind of understand it. She's got it pegged on the head. She worked there for 4 years while she was in school.
Okay.
And but it, the whole thing is marketing. And
okay, well, should they lose? I mean, it's fine to say it's marketing, but it seems to me they're kind of stuck. And I could understand this, and that is that if how the women look is a big part of their business, I respect their right. No different than any other place. I mean, I guess if you did the same thing for beefcake guys, although women don't want to see, naked guys, but it would be the same thing. I would respect their right. That's their business model, is it's based on how people look. If it's not on how people look, then she's going to win her case.
Well, this gets into a whole, philosophy about, business. I think if somebody owns a business, if they want to let people smoke, they should be able to let them smoke.
Right.
If they want to, I hope that Hooters fights this thing to the hilt, and I hope that they beat them back. But, if they just bend over, grab their ankles, and write a check, it's like...
But think of the risk they're running. I like how the doctor's talking about bend over. But think, I railed on, who was it that Lindsay Lohan sued? E-Trade. I railed on them like a lot of you did. They had to hold their ground. I could clearly understand a Hooters would say, because they probably get a lot of this. I don't know how many of them make the Wall Street Journal, how many are this big. I don't know. But they can't. I could see how they're sitting back and their legal team is saying, hey, look, boss, another round of suits today. They can't run the risk. They can't run the risk of this woman sitting in front of a jury of, I don't know if it'd be men or women who'd be more sympathetic, and crying, saying, I can't get another job. They told me I was fat. That's all you'd have to hear, and you lose your case. Is one former employer saying they called me fat, that would be it. You lose. So I think they better write her a check. But maybe it doesn't matter what they look like. I don't know. Do what you want. Traffic update, Melinda Brandt.
Those slow traffic conditions building up out there on all the freeways. Watch out for a reported wreck, 35 northbound service road at Palmer and one on the southbound side of 35 just past Riverside. We also have reports of a collision on East 290 westbound at Tuscany Way. I'm Melinda Brandt with Austin's On-Time Traffic.
Trick or treat, it's...
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
Phone number is 836-590. That's 836-590. Toll free 877-590-KLBJ. Well, you may have heard about this poll during the newscast. This thing says a lot. In fact, there's one element in here that says, for all the talk about economics and taxes, actually, the percentage of people who are against any new taxes is pretty small, to say the least. And this poll is done by Professor Darren Shaw at the University of Texas at Austin. And it's pretty interesting. It's really interesting. See, as usual, we're going to disagree. But it seems to be pretty accurate. In other words, you apparently are very much in favor of sin tax. You really like it. Ken, you're on KLBJ.
Yes, Jeff. I was a restaurant manager in a previous life, one that has long since faded from the scene. But one of my hires at that was our previous city manager, Empress Toby. And the uniforms involve very short skirts. And as a manager, you are keenly aware that if you start talking about appearance and weight, you're dancing on very thin ice. And one of our goals was to never fire anybody. You always wanted people to quit because that greatly reduces their recourse against you for losing their job. If it's their choice, they quit. Too bad. See ya. And there are lots of ways to deal with employees that you don't want to have there anymore, other than just saying you're fat, go away. You deal with it by not scheduling for good or bad shifts.
Right. But I mean, Hooters. I mean, part of it is how you look in your shorts, though. I don't know how there's any getting around that. I mean,
yeah, and what I'm saying is, it was probably a mistake on the part of that restaurant manager to talk about, having her join a gym. That was probably not a wise thing to do on that manager's part.
So they need to go ahead. They don't need this to go to court, do they?
It's, sign the check and you just kind of ask how many zeros do I need to put down here.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because all they need is this lady crying in court saying they called me fat. And it's all over.
Yeah, as long as you got a couple women on the jury, it's done.
Yep. I don't know how much she's suing for. She sued Hooters. There's two of them. I'm sure they get one of these a week. I don't know why this made the Wall Street Journal. I think this is, I guess it's because a judge wouldn't toss it out. And there's some technicality about a weight clause or whether or not the company argued that she agreed to a weight clause. She said she didn't, or clause. And during her performance evaluation, she says the restaurant manager told her to join a gym. And she said she weighed 145 pounds. And she ended up resigning because she claims they put her on a 30-day weight probation because she couldn't fit in the shorts the way they wanted. I'm sure she could fit in them. Okay, here's this poll. Here we go. Most Texans would rather collect new taxes from legalized gambling and alcoholic beverages than increase or broaden sales taxes or impose an income tax. Voters also say their third choice out of a list of 8 options. See, apparently you were given a list of options to bridge the budget gap. The third choice out of a list of 8 options is to legalize and tax marijuana sales. Here was the question. Which of the following would be your first choice for raising additional revenue should Texas face a budget shortfall during the next legislative session? The first choice by 34% of you was to legalize gambling and impose taxes on casinos. 27% of you said increase taxes on alcoholic beverages. 14% of you said, as your first choice, legalize the use of marijuana and impose taxes on its purchase. 10%, less government, right? 10% say I do not support any new taxes.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
Phone number is 836-0590. That's 836-0590. Toll free 877-590-KLBJ. So you are into the syntax thing again. Now, look, now it makes sense. Why do your political heroes do what they do? Because you want them to. So given the choice of what to do facing a budget shortfall, in order, you went legalized gambling, syntax, taxes on alcoholic beverages, increased, syntax, and then a whopping 10% of you say you don't support any new taxes. 53% of you want to increase education funding. See, as you've noticed, less is never an option. It's never on the table. You don't want less. All right, William, you're on KLBJ.
Yeah, hey, Jeff, how's it going?
It goes.
Hey, I just had a comment on the Hooters thing. I think wives and girlfriends need to kind of take a look at this, and, they're really kind of shooting themselves in the foot on this, I think. Hooters, I'm early 30s. I'm in a relationship. All my friends are either married or in a relationship. When we go to Hooters, we really don't care about what their major is. We don't care about, I wonder what that one's thinking. The conversations are pretty minimal. It's just about going out, pounding beers, looking at girls. It's like a strip club G-rated, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a win-win. That allows us to be visually stimulated because that's what men, go on. And it allows us to go home to that 150-pound girlfriend that's breastfeeding. I mean, that's what keeps us sane. That would allow us to be guys for a couple hours, go out, get some eye candy, and then go home to our wives and girlfriends.
Yeah, the wives are wearing sweatpants.
Yeah, and the wives are in their gray sweatpants with a kid in each arm yelling at you when you hit the door. That's what makes that doable.
So they have a right, you think, since the business is based on you and your buddies pounding beers, getting some eye candy, that they have a right to dictate how they look. Because it's about how they look, right? You don't go there. Would you go there? Let me ask you this. Would you and your buddies, to escape your home lives, would you go there if all of a sudden you started noticing the girls were getting fatter? They worked there. Would you go there?
No, I wouldn't, because I can just go home for that. That's the whole point of it. The whole point of it is a little bit of an escape. It's the same reason women go to the guys' strip clubs. It's the same thing. They don't want 50-pound guys with beer guts dancing around. They don't want Eddie up there in a Speedo dancing around. That's not what it's about. And, until we get past all this political correctness and just look at things and it is what it is and deal with that, I mean, it's just ridiculous. It really is. And they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot, so,
They've got to write her a check, because I say if they end up in court, I think they're in trouble. Thank you for offering up that assessment of married men and boyfriends and their wives and girlfriends. That's gonna go over pretty well. It is Kevin. You're on KLBJ.
Hey Jeff, this thing with the spending money on steroid testing. I mean,
we seem to throw bad money after bad money on, testing for alcohol in one school district, testing for steroids statewide. Don't people understand we're broke? What are we spending this money on for? There's some
the
schools.
Health of the young people, Kevin. Come on, man. Aren't you a less government Republican? David, you're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff, this poll you're quoting, was that an online poll, a telephone, a newspaper? Do you know how it was administered?
Yeah, I'm reading it now. It's pretty lengthy, but the methodology is it's late September of this year. Respondents completed the interview via phone in 17 minutes. 5,000 records were drawn to yield 725 completed interviews. The margin of error is plus or minus 3.75%.
Well, the reason I ask is because it's rare that I'm ever able to complete a telephone poll because so many of their questions are based on a faulty premise. And the premise of that poll is that the only way to bridge a budget shortfall is to increase revenue.
Well,
that is a faulty premise. How about spending less?
No, I know. Here's where I'm going to sort of agree with you. Because our mindset, apparently, David, is, and this goes across the board, and I don't want to hear any Republican say you're about less, because there's no evidence of that. Apparently, less is just off the table. So you just have to, that's gone. It's just David and Jeff, the 0.00001% of us would ever say, how about no? How about less? I mean, it was asked, though, to your point, I don't know if this satisfies you. What would be your first choice for raising additional revenue should Texas face a budget shortfall? I mean, that's not completely loaded question. And I do not support any new taxes was an option given to the people on the receiving end.
Well, that's kind of a half-correct answer because not raising taxes doesn't necessarily fix the shortfall. That has to go hand in hand with spending less to begin with.
No, I agree. But it was one of the options, and it was almost to the level of implement a state income tax. So
I don't want to go there either.
Yeah, no, I know that, but I'm just saying it's pretty telling that of the options given, no new taxes was offered, and very, very, very few selected that.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. It is kind of loaded from the outset. But, I mean, to raise additional revenue. If you weren't given the option, do not support any new taxes, then it would really be loaded. He's right about that. But we were given the option. You were given the option. It was an open-ended question about education funding. More. It is Tom. You're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey.
How's it going?
It goes.
Hey, Hooters is in trouble either way, man.
Yeah.
If they cut this chick a check, well, first of all, if they take her to court, I think that they win in court. I mean, airline companies have weight restrictions for the girls, right?
Do they?
Yeah, and you can have a weight restriction. I don't think that's the issue. I mean, you have to be able to physically fit into the uniform, right? That's not an unreasonable request. But if they cut this chick a check, okay, and so all of her girlfriends, let's say that I made my living by looking good in a pair of Speedos, and one of my buddies puts on 25 or 30 pounds and all of a sudden gets a $50,000 or $60,000 settlement check. That's a lot more money than I made as a as a waiter. I'm going to get a pizza, baby.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So
please fire me.
Yeah. Then the hot blonde. Next thing you know, she's 40 pounds. Her butt's hanging out.
Oh yeah.
Wow, I hadn't thought of that angle yet. You're right. It is the fast track to a big payday would be to get fat.
I'm here for you, buddy.
They are in a bad spot. And welcome to our little show. to give you some insight into your statewide political heroes doing what you want. It's a reflection of you. This poll that was just released today, it's pretty interesting stuff. And one of the pollsters, a UT professor by the name of Darren Shaw, says legislators convening in Austin in January may want to take note that Texans are willing to soak the so-called sinners when it comes time to tackle the budget shortfall. So they went through a series of questions and asked people the chance of raising additional revenue, where would that come from? Where would you approve of that coming from? The first choice is 34% gambling. Imposing taxes. Remember, this is all about syntax. Don't just say, come up with the gambling and let it go. 27% increase taxes on alcoholic beverages. Legalize the use of marijuana, increase and impose taxes on its purchase. And 10% of you say you do not support any new taxes. So now you know why no new taxes is never on the table. There's no demand for it. And I mentioned the Hooters lawsuit. I guess maybe you've convinced me that it's not a good idea to write a check. According to the Wall Street Journal, it's two women have filed a weight discrimination suit against Hooters. A judge stepped in and said the case can't proceed. So it's game on. And according to Cassandra Smith, one of the plaintiffs, she says she began working at Hooters in 2008. She weighed 145 at the time. Oops, sorry, 145. She says when she was getting a performance evaluation, the manager told her to join a gym and lose weight to improve her looks so she could fit better in the uniform. She said she was put on a 30-day weight probation and she resigned. The official uniform for Hooters waitresses, she claims, comes in 3 sizes, extra, extra small, and small. So, Hooters says they don't impose weight requirements on employees. I buy that, but I do respect their right for their managers to give it the eyeball test. It's their place. That sounded bad, didn't it? It's a show. What else are they supposed to do? I mean, how do you get a job there? And I'm not saying it's a terrible place. I'm not saying that at all. I could be wrong. Nobody believes me when I said I've never been to a Hooters, but I haven't. And it has nothing to do with being a prude. But it is about how you look. You're not waiting tables at Jeffrey's. It's not about your knowledge of the wine list. And I assume you know that when you take a job there. If you don't want it, don't take it. That's fine. All right, 836-0590, toll free 877-590-KLBJ. Can you listen online? More than likely, yes. Go to 590KLBJ.com. Click on that icon and put your head down. You can do that chat box thing as well. Go to 590KLBJ.com. Click on the OLS chat box, whatever that is. You will see some preppy pictures and URN. If you would like to download the show, that's possible. Go to 590KLBJ.com. It is Chris. You're on KLBJ.
Hey there. Good afternoon.
Hi.
I was just wanting to weigh in on this Hooters thing. I can't honestly believe that it's not a foregone conclusion that if you apply there, you've got to have a cute little body. And my guess would be that if they were wanting to monitor something like that, like your weight, to have a weigh-in once a month and, monitor up and down and whatever. And I would guess that his tact was, left a lot to be desired. But
what is the right tact? Because if you start telling the girls they have to weigh in, apparently they're going to sue you for that too.
Well, but then again, if that's part of the hiring process, I can't imagine that the ladies or young girls that do work there don't know this is a requirement, or better yet, an expectation.
Yeah.
And if it were to get out of hand, and maybe handle it in the same manner. I know this might sound a little harsh, but handle it in the same way you would alcoholism or a drug problem. And that's no different how it affects your performance or the expectations of the job. So if it becomes an issue, then yes, you've got to go on a 30, 60, 90-day kind of probationary period and given the opportunity to correct it.
Is it fair for a restaurant chain, or any company for that matter, that's built on the looks of the babes, is it fair for them to say, I don't like the way you look, you need to change it?
I think it is, as long as that's an expectation that's set right from the get-go. And I can't imagine that it's not for Hooters.
I agree with you. I'm not sure your comparison to alcoholism is going to be well received.
First of all, I just have to tell you that you make me laugh and smile every day, so thank you for that.
Oh, good.
Making your drive home a little easier. You're listening to Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ. Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
Jerry, you're on KLBJ.
Good afternoon, Jeff. Hey, I got a take on the Hooters thing. Rather than from the beginning, when they opened the very first store, rather than putting a sign out that said waitresses wanted, it should have said models wanted. And then when ladies applied, they should have said, what you're going to model is our shorts and our T-shirts. And, oh, by the way, we're going to ask you to serve wings and beer to our patrons. And then we've got this hula hoop thing that we do, and time and time we've got skits, and we've got a little song and dance routine that we do locally here. And since you hadn't been there, I just thought I would mention that.
That's great. I'm getting a good And do they have a volleyball game too?
I've never seen them play volleyball, but from time to time, they'll stop and gather around the front of the store, and they'll do hula hoops and dance and things of this nature. But if they just said, we're hiring models, and like any other model, as long as you have the looks for what we're modeling, then we schedule you. One of your earlier callers said something about not firing people, just giving them a schedule that's not as pleasant as another one. Well, if you don't fit our shorts and T-shirt that we want you to model, then we don't schedule you to model it until such a time that you can fit in there. If they were just honest about it in the first place, maybe they could have saved themselves some grief.
Well said. Who didn't know this, though? I mean, come on. I mean, I don't get it. Have they dug themselves a legal hole by not, as he says, by not being upfront about all this? Or would you get sued right up front? Jay, you're on KLBJ.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
Great show today. I used to manage a restaurant here in town that was along the lines of Hooters, and we would have to monitor. Well, we wouldn't monitor the girl's weight, but I think where Hooters got themselves in trouble is when if they specifically put her on a 30-day probation, and they stated because of your weight, that's the problem. If they had just told the girl to go home and then I'll put her back on the schedule. Texas is an at-will state. Either the employee or the employer can end the working relationship at any moment for no reason whatsoever. They would have been better off doing that.
Wait, this girl, let's take the two girls that are suing them. So you don't say anything. She just comes forward and says, no, wait a minute. I see that I'm not on the schedule for the next 5 weeks. What's up?
You can just look at her and say, well, we don't think you're performing at your best, and they don't have to go into any specifics whatsoever. It could be, they're a bad server, they're not giving, developing the type of energy that those type of restaurants want, or the weight. So there's no reason for the employer to go into specifics on why they're not on the schedule anymore because they don't have to.
When she sort of snaps to it, she says, it's because I've put on 20 pounds, isn't it? What happens?
I would just say nothing. All you'd have to say is you don't think you're performing to our standards or at your best. When I was at the other restaurant here in town, we had girls if they would, if they were starting to put on weight, because I think the reality is when you work into those type of restaurants and you start eating the food there, because you may be spending 5 to, up to 10 hours if you're pulling a double, you're going to be eating there. That food starts to take its toll on you. And that would, the best response I would have put to them would just been like, this is we're going to act on our at-will privileges and just dissolve the relationship here.
Well,
Maybe in 60 days you can come back and reconsider.
But you never take the bait when she keeps trying to get you to answer.
No, you can't, because of that exact reason.
Yeah.
Then it'll turn into a discrimination issue. I mean,
what if she is doing a pretty good job, and she's still getting fatter?
Well, the deal with that.
What do you like when you work?
Here's the deal: is it's subjective to the managers or the person that is managing that store. It's all subjective, right? Everyone likes different size, different color women, different ethnicities of women.
Right,
so
but you've done this before. Is it pretty obvious that a certain look is going to generate more sales and more tips? Is that obvious to you?
Well, here's the deal: is when the girl would come in to apply for a job, they always come in looking their best. Their hair's done, they have makeup on, they look great, and we would tell them, okay, we're going to hire you, but the way you look right now is the standard we're going to uphold to you every time you come in to work in the morning or in the afternoon. And if at any moment you're not upholding the standard, meaning they don't have the makeup on or their clothes, their shirt is faded, their work shirt's faded, and they're not going to buy a new one, then we would just send them home. The other point is hot girls obviously will help a business, but if you have horrible food, if you have bad service, if the atmosphere is bland, it's not going to work regardless. And I think that's the problem that Hooters is really having. Someone called about going to undercover boss. I think the problem with Hooters is the reason why you see someone closing down is their food is disgusting. They haven't changed it or vamped it up in years. And the image of the outfit that they're wearing isn't very appealing. I mean, he wants to see a girl wearing, short orange runner shirts and then, what do they call pantyhose that go up to their armpits, tucked underneath.
Yeah. All right. I don't know what we've... Thank you for your comments. I don't know about railing on their food. I don't know. Now, Thomas has handed me a list of the legal issues. There was a guy from Corpus Christi that sued them recently. A guy from Corpus sued Hooters because they would not hire him as a waiter. They reached a settlement. Great. Oh, yeah, here's the one in 2010. Okay, here's the latest. This was the wording that was used. Her shirt and short size could use some improvement. Uh-oh. The plaintiff alleges that the women made the offer of a free gym membership and that if she did not improve in 30 days, would be terminated. So they claim they offered her a gym membership. Now, Thomas has also handed me, what is this, the description of the company and the job? It says, this is stupid. I mean, you know exactly what you're going to do. If somebody pulled the rug out from under you, that's one thing. It says in the second paragraph in describing the company, its home headquarters, the types of products, et cetera, et cetera. They have 455 locations, blah, blah, blah. The sex appeal of the waitresses is a primary part of the company's image. There you go. Tim, you're on KLBJ.
Yeah, hey, Jeff. Well, you just answered the question. I mean, I remembered a suit a while back that was a guy was suing Hooters because he couldn't get hired as a waiter, but this was before the one you just quoted. And it was upheld in court that they have a right to hire people based on whether or not that person fits their image. And so I would assume they also have the right to handle their personnel in such a way as well. I don't see anything wrong with the way they handled that.
I don't either, except if they did, in fact, settle with this guy from Corpus Christi, they set themselves up for trouble because these two ladies have taken this one pretty far, and apparently this is such a big deal. The Wall Street Journal says that it's going to be a real precedent-setting case about weight.
Well, I didn't think weight was a protected class. I know race, color, creed, national origin,
right?
That kind of stuff.
Well,
but I don't remember. I don't remember seeing weight as a protected class.
But I think that's why this is becoming a big deal, is because I think a lot of people, based on what I'm reading in the Journal, believe that this could set the precedent that weight would be.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
I'm not sure how many people bothered to watch Monday Night Football last night. I haven't even looked at the ratings yet. But I can tell you the amazing story of that game. It takes you 2 years to do what happened last night. In the game, the New England Patriots scored on, and this is the first time this has ever happened in an NFL game. They scored on a kickoff return, a blocked field goal, a blocked punt. They scored on all of those. An interception return, all in one game. What a shock. The special teams coach for the Miami Dolphins was fired today. Can't imagine why. I mean, that's hard in the NFL. That's hard to do in 2 years, not in 2 quarters. It was crazy. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. I feel badly for the guy, but sorry, man. It's hard to get. In fact, you can't get any worse than that. I should have known everybody wanted to weigh in on Hooters waitresses. Should have known. Nobody cares about money going out the window for steroid testing and costing you $265,000 reportedly per positive test. That doesn't faze you. But when it's time to talk about Hooters lawsuits, you're on. Hey, I said a guy from Corpus Christi sued Hooters, and apparently it was a private settlement. There were 4 other guys who sued Hooters because they were denied a job. Each one of them got, $19,100. And so the settlement allowed Hooters, it says, to continue luring customers with a female staff of Hooters girls, but the chain also agreed to create a few other support jobs, like bartenders and hosts, that must be filled without regard to sex. So, no, we're going to keep the women, but you can bust tables. All right, it is Todd. You're on KLBJ.
Hi, Jeff.
Hello, Todd.
This is Tom, actually.
Hello, Tom.
Yeah, up in Colorado. I ate at a Hooters in Denver a lot of years ago, about 2 years after they opened, and the waitresses were fat. And I thought, this is a joke, and I never went back. So it sounds like they're getting their business model together. Maybe I will go back and check them out again.
Right. Well, I guess they're doing it precisely for the reasons you've given, that you're not going to go back to see fat girls in tight shorts, right?
Exactly. And these guys must be doing pretty good, because I worked at the Bell Valley Jet Center, and I'd see these guys coming in the wintertime in their private jet to go skiing, and they own at least one pretty nice private jet. Yeah. So, if that's the story of their success, so be it.
Yeah. 455 locations. Did it have the jet that went into, where is this, Vail?
Yeah, it went into Vail.
Yeah. Did it have a Hooters logo or anything on it?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Because they tried to launch, did they not try to launch a Hooters airline at one point?
I didn't hear anything about that, but it wouldn't surprise me. Apparently these guys are very successful with their business model. If that's, keeping the girls slim and good looking, I think they deserve to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Brian, you're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey.
Yeah, I wonder how these two women would feel if, Refrigerator Perry put on a G-string and went out there on Chippendales and see how they would like that. I mean, You know, I mean, nobody wants to see a big fat guy in Chippendales, and nobody wants to see a big fat girl in Hooters.
But the fat guy, if he talked about their feelings, he might get tipped more than the buff guy.
Maybe, but I don't think, I mean, if you had a service that had nothing but a bunch of bad guys, you're not going to get any women in the door anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't as many women that are just go for the hot guys that are probably gay anyway. But, it's just, guys want to go in and see hot women, and that's what this was. That's what this was all about.
Yeah.
Hooters was not really an owl. I know it's not like they were really on the down low, hey, guess what, we're really about hot women and hot wings. That's pretty much how it was, but well before I was born. It's how it's always been. It's no secret. I don't know what these girls want.
Well, they want some money because apparently Hooters, well, yeah, they want money because you can't live. Here's the real question. Do you get in trouble by pretending to be something that you're not? Right? I mean, did they create their own problems? I never watched that show, Undercover Boss, but, the CEO going public and saying things like, well, I want it to be, what did he say? A place my daughters would be embarrassed and things like that. I mean, have they set themselves up for these lawsuits? Phone number is 836-0590, toll free 877-590-KLBJ. I don't really know why this is playing right now. It's Celine Dion performing with Kiss. Because Thomas just decided, what the heck? He felt it. It is Marcus. You're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey.
I feel sorry for that girl at Hooters there. I think I'm going to start a restaurant and call it Hefty's. And my shorts will come in 3 sizes, 2XL, 3XL, and holy cow.
You think business will be good?
I think it would go over great.
There's nothing stopping you, right? I want to know how much the guy in Corpus Christi got last year. I mean, that was pretty quiet. He applies for a job there. They turn him down. He sues them, and then they settle for an undisclosed amount. I guess they can write enough checks. It's better than paying, right? Daniel, you're on KLBJ.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a lawyer, and I just defended a girl who was getting overweight. She was pregnant, but she didn't even know she was pregnant at the time, but she was getting overweight. And the restaurant did exactly the same thing. They cut her hours back until she could no longer make a living. And anyway, we ended up settling out of court with them. And I'm sure that's what's going to happen with Hooters. Now, you.
Wow. It's amazing that it lasted this long.
He's a jackass.
It's amazing. It's amazing it's lasted this long. Let me just give you an example of what's happened. Here I mentioned a poll about Texans and budget deficits. No. I even mentioned women and marijuana. No, you're not feeling it there either. Thought for sure you'd be excited about women and the marijuana movement. No. Talked about steroid testing and the amount of money spent there. I mentioned the Justin Bieber at 1 billion YouTube hits. No. Nope. One passing mention of Hooters lawsuits and you're off. There's no stopping you. David, you're on KLBJ.
Jeff, sometimes it's good to be on hold. I would have loved to have heard the rest of what that guy had to say. But that's not why I called.
Well, Thomas was quick to that one. I forgot that the people on hold, you can hear almost the entire call until he's dropped, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Well, congratulations to you, David. I'm sure that was a beautiful vision.
It It was. And that's why I'm calling. Visions are why I'm calling.
Okay.
I'm driving along with visions of Hooter girls dancing across my windshield, and that goes with rock and roll music, and that's why Thomas did what he did a moment ago, because of you. And I have to tell you, you suck, because now I'm thinking of nothing but Celine Dion singing I Want to Rock and Roll All Night. Yeah. And you ruined my life again.
It was amazing. You were incredible. I wanna rock and roll all night. I party every day.
So the people on hold, they get the V word, huh? Oh, that's fun. Hey, trust me, it can get a lot worse. Christina, you're on KLBJ.
Hi. I think Hooters is missing a whole nother market out there. If they hired really good-looking young men that were the equivalent to the Hooters babes, they could call it Hooters and Hunks, or as a friend suggested to me, Hooters and Hot Dogs.
Now, let me, all kidding aside, just for a second. Now let's be brutally honest with this. All right, let's say you went out and you raised the money to launch a restaurant. Let's leave the hot dog part out of it for a second.
I know that was
that's
rude.
That's cool. But
No,
I think
I just thought it was funny.
No, it is funny, but I don't think it works. I don't think. I mean, you tell me, but I don't think if the two of us put up a bunch of money to launch a male version of Hooters, and the guys have spray-on tans, and they're wearing tight shorts and tube socks.
No.
Women don't want to see that, do they?
No, they can. It would be a co-ed type of a thing. You'd have your Hooters and you'd have your Hunks, both working in the same restaurant. And the Hunks would be, I don't know, maybe they could have a scaled-down version of some type of a tuxedo vest on, or not necessarily shorts. They could have nice-fitting pants or nice-fitting shorts. You know, something that women like to see.
Would you like chips, queso, and a beer to a guy wearing tight shorts and a tuxedo shirt? Honestly.
I might.
Really? Who do you think would go there more, men or women?
Oh, you're probably right. The men would go to see the women. But it was just an idea.
Yeah. No, I meant the men would go see the men.
I have your number, Mr. Jeff Ward.
Are there women listening right now? You do not want to go to a restaurant and see some loser with his body shaved and a spray-on tan serving you fajitas.
Well, listen, let me tell you something. We do not go nude.
Just, look, here's how much I believe in free enterprise. You know what? If it was a good idea, someone would be doing it. Okay? It would have already happened. There's not even an equivalent, is there? Anything even close, a male version? I mean, outside of you go to Vegas and a bunch of school teachers go and giggle somewhere and, drink some bad Chardonnay or something. That's, what is that, the Thunder Down Under or whatever? But they're not serving you food. I mean, you wouldn't be like the guys here who 4 days a week pound pitchers of beer, drool on themselves, and stare at waitresses. Excuse me. There's no marketplace for the male version of that. There's not. I don't believe it. I don't believe you'd go.
That's gay.